Welcome to Your Strata Property, the podcast for property owners looking for reliable, accurate, and bite-sized information from an experienced and authoritative source. To access previous episodes and useful strata tips, go to www.yourstrataproperty.com.au.
Hello and welcome to this week's podcast episode. I'm your host, Amanda Farmer, and I'm here each week helping you to demystify the legal complexities of apartment living. My guest today is Tom Welsby, the founder of ResVu. Originally entering the world as an accountant, Tom quickly shifted into the strata management sector as a contractor to one of Australia's largest strata firms. In 2012, Tom and his team developed a software product designed to improve resident communication across the high-density communities that he had under management. Fast forwarding to 2020, and Tom's team at ResVu have built a white label software specific to strata management companies that handles the entire end-to-end customer service channel, including communication, committee management, maintenance workflows, contractor tracking, and most fascinating to me, as you'll hear in this chat, the data analytics that sit behind it all. Serving over 40 strata management companies and 180,000 apartments around Australia as of December 2020, the ResVu team anticipate they'll be serving double that number by December 2021. Here to explain it all to us is Tom Welsby. I'll take you right over now to our chat. Enjoy. Tom Welsby, welcome to the show.
Thanks heaps, Amanda. I'm really looking forward to this chat.
I am looking forward to it too. We do talk about tech and new platforms helping our owners from time to time in our strata space. And we're well overdue, I think, for a chat with another tech genius as you are. We are going to get into exactly what you've been up to shortly. But I want to start, Tom, with your personal background, if you don't mind sharing. How is it that you came to found a software company servicing our strata sector?
I can't claim the tech genius name. I know I'll leave that one up to my development team. But look, there's always been a big interest in tech. There's no doubt about it. My background actually is an accountant. So went to uni, studied accounting. I was interested in business more so I figured out along the road there. And quite quickly an opportunity came up to manage a portfolio here in South Australia of strata properties, that is, with one of the companies here. And from that point on, that was about 2013. And so, managed portfolio throughout that period of time. And it was about 2016, 2017. And that's really where the ResVu concept was born, just due to, I'd taken on quite a few larger apartment buildings and started really working with some really active management committees, started working with some really active facility managers, and really starting to work out that unfortunate disconnect between all of the key stakeholders in those sites. And ResVu's, at the time, I think the company we actually called it iCorp Digital. Well, I think we were still on the Apple bandwagon and putting an I in front of everything. So that's actually where it all started out. But ultimately, the ResVu itself's been born off the back of what is quite a number of years as a strata manager. We had a portfolio of probably about 2,000 apartments here in Adelaide. And from there, as I said, ResVu came out about 2016, 2017, and we've been building it since. So
what happened to your accounting studies? You're another one of those former strata managers who is a former something else.
I started my accounting studies in about 2010, and I watched quite a few of my peers go straight into auditing. And the company I was working for at the time, when I first started working with the strata company, I was in their accounts department. So I was working with the auditors quite a bit as they were coming in, whether it be for the financials of the stratas or whether it be for the company itself. And I've got to admit, I didn't get too enthused by some of the taxation auditing. And I looked at how some of my peers had said, walked into it, and I thought, you know what, this knowledge is fantastic. I'm really enjoying how to understand numbers, but I think I'd rather apply it to my own set of whether it be personal company budgets and in particular in the strata sector. And it really, really helped communicating and engaging with the management committees in particular in the first few years. So I think I just convinced myself out of it because I could find the application of the studies better suited for perhaps me, maybe my personality elsewhere, but still working on the same thing. So, yeah.
And you mentioned there, Tom, identifying this disconnect between the different players in a community, strata managers, residents, facilities managers. What is it that ResVu does to address that disconnect?
I guess when the concept first started, the genuine situation it came out of, it was a slight light bulb moment. The product we first came up with is 1/50th of what we have now, but at the end of the day, it came out of building about 120 apartments in the city. It was a 34, 35 degree morning, so really, really hot, and the pool had just been upgraded, right? So it was this brand new outdoor pool deck, and everyone was. It was a bit of a heat wave, I remember, as well. We had a big power shutdown too here in Adelaide, and anyone in Adelaide will remember that because it went for about 3 or 4 days. So the pool had to be shut down. We had an issue with the pump, and by 7:30 a.m., me and the facility manager had received 170 phone calls and emails. It was just out of control. And immediately I looked at it, and I remember I had quite a very good relationship with the facility manager. I was like, mate, what do we do here? You can't just go print out a piece of paper and stick it up in the lift and hope everyone goes down to the foyer to read it, which is just the traditional, simple status quo of 99.9% of the market. So very quickly, I then started. I already had a good relationship with a gentleman here in Adelaide, Josh, who's now our Chief Technology Officer. And he said, you know what? We can get a text messaging system up pretty quickly. So within the space of a couple of months, we had a text messaging system up and running that we were able to actually get people's mobile phone numbers onto, and we started communicating. So the whole system came out of communication. Once we ticked the box of communication through the 2016, early 2017 period, we then started to work a lot closer with our facility managers, a lot closer with our management committees, and started to work more on how to improve those efficiencies across their sites. So we've got the communication channel sitting there going, well, we can at least address the issues that come up reactively now. And unfortunately, again, the whole industry is really built on reactive responses. So we're able to apply a pretty big tick to that in terms of reductions in phone calls and emails. But then we started to look at, right, how can we work with the facility manager next? They were our next big step. Committee came after that, but that was then around, all right, well, we need to provide a system and a mechanism for the facility manager to distribute surveys, to actually start engaging with their customers and their on-site residents about improving facilities, the status of facilities. We then built an inspection system for them, which is now a very powerful system. It's got automatically generated PDFs and an offline mode, so irrespective of how deep your basement might be, it produces some really good reports, which ultimately fell into our then committee tools around having better reports so the committees can make better decisions on their facilities and things like that too. So I'm sure I'll cover a bit more about the system as we go on, but yeah, just as a bit of a highlight, that's really where it started, that one situation and the light bulb in the sense going, we've got to be able to resolve this back and forth relentlessness of emails and phone calls, which many of the listeners in Strata would know well and truly what I'm talking about. So
yes, indeed. And it never ceases to surprise me how we have this technology available and we still do things like put notes up in the lift and wait for the emails or the phone calls to come in. And I hope that having gone through this year, it's the end of 2020 as we record this, we've seen many buildings and managers, facilities managers come to understand more so the power of this technology. Who is it that you are serving? Who are your customers? Are you going to the strata managers to set this up and it's then used across a community and a portfolio of communities? Do you go to the building? Do you go to the building manager? Where do you start?
There was two things that we had to really address when the system first came about. The first one was I was aware that there was some other facility management centric software around. So something that facility managers, in particular in your eastern states tiled developments, would take on themselves and use to run their arm of the site. But again, as listeners will know perfectly well, every individual site is made up of at least 3 key stakeholders. Depending on its size, you might have 2 because you might not have a full-time facility manager, but it's always a strata manager, it's always a facility manager, and it's always a management committee. So, and then you've got obviously the residents and the end receivers of the performance of those key stakeholders. So looking at it from day one, I knew that we needed a system, or the industry needed a system that was strata-centric, in the sense that you had or at least the stakeholder-centric. So a system that could connect all key stakeholders, provide an integrated transfer of information across all three, and ultimately give that management committee an understanding of their site so they can make better decisions. The management committees are always the decision makers of the site. They'll always employ the people that they need to run those sites appropriately from a management point of view. And we knew that was what needed to be addressed. So now that we look at where we are currently, our only target market is a strata company looking to deploy a customer service platform across their portfolio that they can utilize for communication, engagement, customer service, and what is quite a powerful maintenance workflow now across work orders and quote requests and things like that too. So we've got some really powerful procurement systems now too. We're connecting trades and suppliers. Local businesses have always been a part of it as well. And at the end of the day, this is now an ecosystem for the strata companies to deploy across their portfolios that definitely separates them from their competitors, in particular because it's a white label product. So you've got your own custom branded app on the App Store. You've got your own custom branded customer service portals. It's your brand. In fact, we received some great news this morning. One of our customers just won the Innovation Award for the Urban Developer. So that was a really, really good thing to hear as well. And they've got some fantastic innovations. They've combined it with some really powerful security system technology as well beyond what we can offer from a hardware solution point of view. But they've really grabbed that white label notion with our back-end support. Our whole team's here in Australia, and we just build this software on a regular basis. Every week we're releasing new software. So it's become a really powerful offering now to the strata company. We do still have our what we refer to as our community link products. Our community link product is our single site system. That's where we started. We didn't have a platform that we could give to a strata company that would allow them to manage their whole portfolio. There's quite a big layer that sits on top of that where you've got to feed a lot of data into, you've got to feed a lot of global actions. So for the first 2 years, we had our standard community link product, which is, your single site product. It's when the body corporate or the strata comes to us and says, we need a communication system, that's generally what we give them. But they do miss out on things, a lot of the global functionality that we can give to a strata company that can run multiple offices and multiple states if needed as well. So we don't focus on trust accounting. I know at the start of this conversation, we spoke about my background in accounting, but I think that's probably the reason why we didn't touch it. So we know that there's some really powerful trust accounting systems that have been around for many, many, many years in this industry. And we only wanted to come in as a system that supported them and didn't compete. So there's tiny bits of crossover here and there, but we now work with all those trust accounting systems, and we're all on the same page in terms of how we're helping each other. So that's been the really big benefit. But it's certainly come a long way from that text messaging system to where it is now. The target market's changed quite a bit, but we're very comfortable where we are now.
And you mentioned earlier that you are white labeling this, and for anybody who may have missed that, what that means from my point of view is that if I'm with Super Strata Company, Pty Limited, then I am logging into what I see as their system. I am logging in to see Super Strata Company, Pty Limited offers me all of this software. You're the one who has developed it and owns it in the background, but they have their branding on it. Absolutely correct.
Yeah, so we sometimes have to explain ourselves a bit to strata companies because they're saying, well, we haven't heard of you before, but they probably have actually seen it. Many of their competitors have actually got our app that's been deployed, or our system that's been deployed. We just made the decision early on that white labeling and effectively giving the strata company total control over their own brand, their own awareness, their own customers, and effectively owning a system was really what we could see as the biggest benefit and the biggest competitive advantage for them too. So even if two companies have the exact same ResVu software, it will still come down to how they use it and how they're marketing it as well. So that's been something that, we're definitely happy with the decision we made early on about that, and we're seeing the benefits of it now. So.
Yeah, I like that approach too. As a committee member, would I be, if my building and my strata manager was using your software, would I have the ability to log in, to check messages, check emails, see how everything's going in the building. Instead of jumping into my inbox in the morning when I want to see what's required of me as a committee member today, I log into the system, which I understand to be my strata manager's system, and I can see my messages and deal with them all in that one hub you were referring to.
Yeah, totally correct. So we've got different levels of privileges. It's quite a complex system behind the account settings now, and it needs to be because the level of access that is required. So I'll give you a general example. Generally speaking, the strata manager will be the one that has the key super admin type control over their site. So they might have a portfolio of, say, 100 buildings. They would be the super admins across those 100 buildings. There is another level above that, which is a company admin, which is, of course, the strata company directors and management. But you then have layers underneath that strata manager, which management committee is absolutely one of them. But then you've also got your office bearers as well, who might actually have another tier above that. So we're not just seeing committees enter the system either through the mobile app or through the administration console to, you're right, check their messages, vote on an item, check documents. There's a really good document storage facility in there as well. So committee members are just rocking up to meetings, clicking on Committee Hub inside their app, and then they've just got everything there ready to go. But they've also, generally speaking, it's probably a secretary perhaps, or sometimes the chairperson also has access to the communication tools. So we've got our inbuilt document creation platform that allows you to create newsletters, update policies and procedures, generate surveys, send out alerts, so notices, and everything's done via either an SMS, email, or push notification, or all three at once. So depending on the severity of the message, whether it is, major fire, then SMS is going to be your best there. But hey, if it's the newsletter monthly that goes out to all residents, including tenants, that might just be an email and a push notification, and that might have been the responsibility of the secretary to note up after the latest meeting. And so the system does give that level of a very powerful communication system there that gives that full spectrum. So, and the same thing, the committee might not have access to the work order and quote requesting and inspection system that the facility manager would. But then the facility management might not have anything to do with the events and the social clubs and the community wall system too. The committee might run that. So, yes, the system has some very powerful community engagement tools. Not every site needs those though, but hence why we've sort of got them offering, but ultimately it's a custom service tool for that strata company.
And you've mentioned there, Tom, voting and meetings. How do you keep across the different legislative requirements in each of our jurisdictions? Have you got someone who's got their eye on that? Because I know you're right across the country.
Yeah. So probably important to make note that we don't jump in the same category as, for instance, a strata vote. I know Matt Larwood quite well. He's here in Adelaide too, and those guys have done some awesome stuff in terms of managing general meetings. And, we sit in the field that gives a base level of voting for a management committee only. We're not treading inside the waters of an AGM or just general meeting specific voting platform. Where we are having conversations though with some of the voting platforms is how we can use our communication system to actually gather pre-meeting information and better populate the agendas with motions necessary for voting at the AGMs and general meetings as well. So we're at a level where we know if we're in line with the legislation around Australia. But in saying that, if we probably took it to the next level, we'd have to be putting a lot more effort into making sure we were compliant across the varying states' legislations. But at the moment, we just fit the mould easily of a management committee discussion board. A lot of our committees will actually ratify those decisions at the next meeting anyway. So they might have their chat, close the conversation out, happy with that, let's ratify at the next meeting. So again, we aren't in a position to try to turn that system into something that's really heavily related to voting. We want it to be an efficiency tool for discussions. Yes, it's got its own polling system that sits behind it, but as we're seeing, the committees are really started going, if it's something simple, sure, make a decision now, move on, but generally speaking, be ratifying at the next meeting.
I can just see the benefits there for record keeping and being able to go back as a committee member, and you may be at a meeting wanting to ratify a decision. What was the communication about this? What did I say 3 months ago in an email about this? And of course, people who are looking at the records as potential purchasers having access to this hub of information, of emails, records of decision making. I would like to think that strata managers, strata companies as you call them, who are making use of this software are then making access available to those who are conducting records inspections, one form or another. And I don't know if there's a particular place in your software where people would go to inspect records.
Yeah, we created either a CSV or a PDF dump because I think the strata managers didn't necessarily want everyone going into the system to take a look. It was a case of, cool, topics closed, PDFs generated, and it's now with some of our integrations with the trust accounting systems, we're actually able to automatically integrate that saved document into their document system. So when that search is made, it just grabs the information from the ResVu platform automatically. So yeah, you're right. The record keeping was a big one from the start. Yeah, and emails is terrible for that. So
yes, I know. And those loyal listeners who are tuning in now will have heard me speak about that numerous times. Anything that makes access to records easier and record keeping more transparent, I think, is a great thing in our space. So, Tom, you've been working with buildings for a long time now, with strata management companies in particular, and you are gradually rolling out your software mostly in the eastern states and South Australia. Is that where you are?
Certainly mostly eastern states, yeah. As I said to you earlier on, I was supposed to be in Queensland come April this year. So, but yeah, we definitely operate in the majority of eastern states, yeah.
Have you got a case study, an example for us of a community you've been working with who has been using your software, or even a strata management company using your software to great benefit?
Probably the best example we had just recently. We actually wrote a case study on it. It's in, we might need to circulate it again, or we might not have yet, but we've been focusing a lot on data, right? So tracking the interactions of the users based on the interactions of the managers. So a strata company can quite easily see the performance of managers across their portfolio versus the engagement of their customers. As an example, we, and this is, as I said, this is really what we've been focusing on, because the quicker we can get the information to a strata company's management to understand the performance of their managers' efficiencies, the better the overall wellness elements of this industry are going to be improved, because we're able to free up time, we're able to give management companies the ability to understand how their portfolios are actually engaging and interacting. So what we did recently, we took one of our customers, we showed them the data that we're producing, and we're about to start placing inside their analytics tool. And like I said to them, we combined two managers' portfolios, and across the various data we had one manager who had a approximate turnaround time in dealing with resident maintenance requests, right? So from the time the resident makes the request through their custom branded app to the time that it's in a work order, we had one manager that was 1.1 days, right? So the strata company could also see action versus unactioned maintenance requests and things like that, but ultimately that was one of their key metrics. The other key metric was their management committee engagement. So how many of the committee topics had they responded to? How many topics had they created? And then you've got the communication benefits. So how many alerts have been distributed? What type of notices have been distributed? Now, notices is quite literally window cleaning taking place in January, so it's stuff that needs to be done anyway that replaces that piece of paper in the lift. So the two portfolios combined, very similar size portfolios. One manager had an average maintenance request turnaround of 4.8 days, which I know didn't go down awfully well. But that manager actually had a really high committee engagement. So what we found out of that was the other manager, the 1.1 day turnaround manager in the maintenance requesting space, they had a better overall engagement from their portfolio. So their portfolio was 78% engaged, meaning across all of the apartments that they manage, 78% of those users are inside the system looking at what that manager is distributing on a weekly basis. So that was massive. That was a really big engagement. So it showed the company what a really good portfolio is. The other manager was really good at some things, but it also highlighted that they need to be better at other things. So the best thing about it for that business was that they were able to just have a super quick chat with the manager. We put our hand up and did a bit more training with that manager as well. And in the month after that, that manager excelled in all the other areas. They got their time down. So there was like 0.8. So less than 24 hours, they were getting back to every maintenance request, because they didn't understand as well as what the other manager did, that flow from resident request into work order. And then we've also got a contractor tracking platform that shows performance of contractors, which is another one that the companies are important or keen on. So yeah, that was our best case study to date. I mean, because it's, again, looking at that customer service platform that we are trying to deploy now. Yes, you've got your benefits internally within a building, the communication, the community hub, all that. But at the end of the day, as a strata company, being able to understand your efficiency of your portfolio so you can retain and win more business, that's in simplest effect what we're trying to improve for them. So
I really love that. At a time when I am hearing more and more from owners that they don't know what their strata manager does, or they don't hear from their strata manager, or they feel completely disconnected, they don't know where the money's going, the strata manager just seems to be a post office, an address for them. I think this ability to collect this data is just so powerful and is going to become increasingly important, as you say, to retain clients in this competitive space and to win more clients by being able to track, improve upon that level of service and focusing on that engagement. That's really clever.
And in an industry where you've got the most, in all honesty, strata managers are amazing. This is an industry that requires the most phenomenal relationship skills. It involves a real understanding of whether it be the legislation or just the simple needs of your customers. And to have a system that'll actually, so it's never really the fault of the strata manager to not be able to be proactive. It's just that those communication systems, the engagement systems, and the understanding of their portfolios movements have never been there. So it's been fantastic to see those managers that have just been crying out for that customer service help. Not that they didn't know exactly what they needed at the end of the day, but whilst we've been able to work with them really closely over the last 3 or 4 years, and those managers aren't changing their tact. Their personalities haven't changed. Their skills haven't changed. If anything, they've got better. It's just that they're now able to fill those gaps that they just didn't have before. So it's less relentless. They're dealing with a lot more issues. And when your customers trust you, when your residents trust you, those emails very quickly turn from, why haven't you done this, to, hey, just checking in, hope you're well, can you give me an update on this? And that alone, increasing the percentage of those types of emails is so good for your mental health at the end of the day. So
I'm sure there's plenty of strata managers out there listening thinking, yes, please, I'd like some more of those. Bring them on.
That's what we're working on the most. If I was to put it to a T, that's really what we're working on the most.
And the power of that data. It's excellent.
Mm.
What is next for ResVu, Tom? Are you working on anything exciting in the background that we can look forward to seeing launched in 2021 and beyond?
Yeah, I've got to be hush-hush on probably one or two of them. But,
okay.
But they're more late.
I won't tell anyone.
No, it's okay. Yeah, they're more late next year. And look, but I'll be very honest and very clear in the fact that it is totally around improving that inbound ticket management. So there's a company out of the US, I forget their name now. They manage 700,000 lots, right? Which is, like a medium-sized company in the US. It's just phenomenal. But they had 8 people on a customer service desk, and they dealt with 70 to 80% of the tickets that came in. So those managers, they're key managers, what's called homeowner association managers over there. Their time was spent dealing with 20 to 30% of the inbound inquiries. And that alone, the ability for them to maybe manage even a larger portfolio, but certainly focus on relationships with their key clients, their committees, and actually perform the duties that they want to perform and should be performing. That's the big element that we're now delivering a piece of software for. Our MVP in that platform called Service Hub is going to be released pre-Christmas. And then we're going to have that rolled out across 1 or 2 of our customers in the early stages for probably January, Feb. And then I'm hoping the rest of our client base will look to take that on sort of around March, April. So that would be part of our service. That's just, and then furthering our integrations. I mean, the better integrations we have with these trust accounting systems, the more seamless those relationships are. It is near impossible to do both. I mean, if we even tried to do trust accounting, and the same thing from a trust accounting systems point of view to do what we're doing, it's really difficult to achieve a high quality, engaging product. So we're going to continue focusing on the customer service elements, providing more to the strata companies, more to the committees, more to the FMs, and building on that. So, but look, service tickets, some inbuilt chat stuff between one-on-one conversations between residents and managers, certainly not open building forums and things like that. I think they'll create more work, but really just continuing to drive that ticket and requesting management, improving the efficiencies whilst improving customer service is just our biggest push at the moment. So,
Yep. Sounds like something to look forward to. And I subscribe to the same philosophy of not doing everything and not being everything to everyone. Do less and obsess is a good
I like that. That's
mantra
great.
there. It's not mine. I'll look it up and I'll pop in the show notes who it is. But it's a good one to bear in mind. We see it a lot in our space. And I have to say, from lawyers in particular, wanting to do everything, cover every area, take on as many clients and serve as many strata managers as possible. Not for me. So I can see how others in this space are taking that up, and we have something to learn there. And good on you for focusing on what you're best at.
Yeah. Oh, great. Thank you. Cheers.
So, Tom, how do our listeners find out more about you and ResVu? Where should they go to get in touch?
Sure. So best for understanding and information, please come to me directly. I mean, my email is tom@resvu, resvu.com.au. Feel free to even call me. I'm very keen to have those conversations about how each business can understand more about improving their efficiencies. Look, our standard commercial model is simply just based on per lots. It's pretty well a cup of coffee per year per lot. So I'll have those conversations with the businesses as they come through. And I'd really love to talk more about our maintenance flows and stuff as well, which is described well on our website. So www.resvu.com.au. We've obviously got our socials as well across LinkedIn, Instagram, and also Facebook. And as of last Thursday as well, please, join up to our newsletter on our website, because every month now, I'll be running with a few different speakers each month, just a webinar, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, just on how to improve customer service to win and retain more business. So we're just taking off bite-sized chunks of this industry that we certainly don't totally understand and we want to know more about. And I know that the rest of the industry is trying to continuously solve those issues. So, next time around will actually be our service hub discussion. I think we'll be able to show the system there as well. So, there's plenty of ways there, but please head to our website and have a look at that.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom. I will make sure that all of those points of contact are listed in the show notes for this episode. I'm very much looking forward to watching what ResVu does into 2021 and beyond. Thanks so much for your time chatting today.
Really appreciate it, Amanda. I love what you're doing with the industry as well. This is brilliant stuff. So thank you very much. And thanks for everyone else for listening as well.
Thanks, Tom.
No worries. See you later. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Your Strata Property, the podcast which consistently delivers to property owners reliable and accurate information about their strata property. You can access all the information below this episode via the show notes at www.yourstrataproperty.com.au. You can also ask questions in the comments section, which Amanda will answer in her upcoming episodes. How can Amanda help you today?